When you think of people with red hair, places like Scotland and Ireland probably immediately come to mind. Yet there is a region of Russia that is home to a people who have been described as having the reddest hair in the world, the Udmurt people. So in this video, I want to look at why red hair is common amongst the Udmurts and how this trait developed in this part of the world. At the end of this video as well, I will also look at the genetics of the Udmurt people, what haplogroups are common amongst them, and if this relates to red hair at all. Now, the Udmurt Republic is a region of Russia which sits just east of the Volga river and just west of the Ural mountains. The Udmurt people are a Finno-Ugric ethnic group that have much higher levels of red hair than the global average. In general, the amount of people globally with naturally red hair is only between 1 and 2%, making it the rarest hair colour in the world. In the Udmurt Republic, however, rates of red hair are between 5 and 15% depending on the source. For comparison, Scotland and Ireland are generally considered to have some of the highest rates of people with naturally red hair on earth, at between 6 and 13% of people in Scotland and around 10% in Ireland, putting the people of the Udmurt Republic right up there as far as some of the highest rates of red hair in the world, perhaps even number 1 depending on the source. And the Udmurts are proud of this trait. Every year, they have a festival that celebrates Redheads, held in their capital, Ancestry. But why does this tiny republic in Russia have such high levels of people with naturally red hair compared to various other parts of Russia itself and the wider world? Well, let's first start with the most obvious point. To get that out the way first, we know from a simple genetic perspective that the primary driver of red hair is due to a mutation on the melanocortin-1 receptor gene, or MC1R, which is located on chromosome 16, a gene that is involved in melanin production. Red hair is also considered a recessive trait, meaning that you need to inherit the same recessive allele from both parents for this trait to appear. But why is this trait so common amongst the Udmurt people? Well, one common argument to explain this points to a potential connection between a particular Y DNA haplogroup and red hair. Look at these two maps. The map on the left shows the rates of red hair in Western Eurasia, with a lighter shade of red representing the highest levels. As you can see, the region on the right of this map is the area around the Udmurt Republic in Russia. The map on the right is of the Y DNA haplogroup, R1b, which is very common in places like Britain, Ireland and Western Europe in general, but it's also somewhat common in the Udmurt Republic as well. The map on the left also shows the 45th parallel north line, which is a circle of latitude that is 45 degrees north of Earth's equator. As you can see from all this, there is a pretty striking correlation between R1b and rates of red hair, especially north of the 45th parallel line. Now, the author in this article notes the importance of correcting this correlation for latitude, as people with red hair also tend to have lighter skin as well, which is generally better suited to northern latitudes because it's more efficient at making vitamin D from sunlight. On the subject of climate as well, an important point to note is that Udmurtia has long snowy winters, with the average temperature in January being around 5 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 15 Celsius. They also have pretty short days this time of year in December. The day length in the capital of the Udmurt Republic on the 30th of December is just under 7 hours, with sunrise at 9:01 in the morning and sunset at 3:57 in the afternoon. This is similar to Scotland, which is interesting, with day length in Glasgow at the moment just over 7 hours. And on this note, I never realised before making this video that the latitude of the Udmurt Republic is almost perfectly in line with Scotland, which is again very interesting. Now, if we return back to this correlation between R1b and red hair, even if we look north of this 45th parallel line, this correlation is not perfect, and correlation doesn't mean causation anyway. So, in my opinion, although I think this is an interesting argument, I think there's definitely more going on here than simply R1b. What do you think? But what other factors could influence this prevalence of red hair in the Udmurt Republic? Well, one reason could be because of a founder effect and genetic drift. We know in general that genetic traits like red hair can become more concentrated in isolated or relatively homogeneous populations. The Udmurt people have historically lived in a specific region with limited outside genetic mixing, which may have allowed the red hair gene to persist and become more common over time. I think this probably played a significant role in red hair becoming so common amongst the Udmurt people. But there are probably other factors at work as well. One other factor could be related to the fact that the Udmurt people celebrate this trait of red hair, having this annual festival to celebrate Redheads. Could this potentially have acted as a positive selective pressure down through time? Could the Udmurt people always have had this tradition of being fond of red hair? And this could also potentially have played a role in red hair becoming more common amongst them through sexual attractiveness. Now, another important point reflects the origins of red hair in general, but before we look at that, I would like to quickly thank my Patreon members for voting for this video topic. If you would like to vote for what video topics I make videos on, I will put a link to my Patreon page below, and also if you like this jumper, I will put a link to my merch store below as well. Thank you, and now on with the video. So as I was saying, another potential reason why so many Udmurt people have naturally red hair is probably because the Udmurt Republic is actually closer to the origin of red hair than places like Scotland and Ireland. As I go through in one of my previous videos on how red hair and blue eyes spread to Europe, the origin of red hair was probably in Central Asia, not Europe. And there are numerous examples of peoples down through history from Central Asia that have this trait. The Scythians were one people often described as having many red heads, for example, and they lived just south of Udmurtia in the area north of the Black Sea. The Slavs have also been associated with red hair down through history as well, which is important to note. So the Udmurts are probably closer to the origin of red hair than places like Scotland and Ireland. What about the Vikings though? Did they play a role in spreading this trait of red hair to this general area? Well, although there's not any direct evidence, historical link between the Vikings and the Udmurt Republic, we know that the Vikings had a presence in this general area, using the river systems to move through parts of Eastern Europe and into parts of Russia, including the Volga river trading routes. These Norse were known as the Varangians, and they went on to settle in the territories of present-day Belarus, Russia and Ukraine from the 8th to the 9th centuries AD. They established the state of the Kievan Rus, mixing with Slavic peoples over time, and there also seemed to be a Finnic influence as well. Rurik was the first ruler of the Kievan Rus, and Russia is thought to get its name from the Rus. Now, we also know that Scandinavia today has reasonably high levels of people with red hair compared to many other parts of the world. And in fact, the number of people with red hair in Scandinavia most likely increased as well during the Viking Age, as we know the Vikings took slaves back home from places like Scotland and Ireland. So this is all to say that the Vikings moving east may have increased the rates of red hair in this Volga region, and although any impact would probably have been small, they may have contributed in some indirect way to the concentration of red hair in the Udmurt Republic. But what about the genetics of the Udmurt people, and does this strengthen the argument around R1b and red hair? Well, a really interesting study from 2018 was published in Genome Biology. It analysed the genetics of Uralic-speaking populations in general, including the Udmurts, of course. One of the central findings overall was that most Uralic speakers, along with some of their geographic neighbours, share a distinct ancestry component of likely Siberian origin, which is interesting to note. This study also analysed the Y-DNA and mitochondrial haplogroups amongst the Udmurt people. If we start with the Y-DNA side, they found that 2 variations of N is by far the most common types, yet R1b was still present. Based on 184 Udmurt people, N1C was the most common Y-DNA haplogroup, which confusingly is also known as N3, found in 53% of people in this study. The second most common Y-DNA haplogroup was M1b P43 at 16.8%. R1a was the third most common at 19%, with R1b the fourth most common Y-DNA haplogroup at 4.9%. Other studies have found a similar pattern. So what does this mean for the R1b argument then, in relation to the prevalence of red hair in the Udmurt Republic? Well, as I've argued in this video, the R1b argument alone doesn't make full sense to me, and other factors must have played a role in my opinion, although there is perhaps some link with R1b in general. These factors may include the origins of red hair being in Central Asia, the Vikings having an influence in this region, positive selective pressures through factors like sexual attractiveness, for example, the climate and latitude of the Udmurt Republic being conducive to this trait being selected for over time, and probably a founder effect and genetic drift having a significant impact as well. What do you think though? Why does this tiny republic in Russia have such a massive concentration of people with red hair compared to most other regions around the world? Please let me know in the comments below. What about the mitochondrial side though? Well, based on 182 Udmurt people in this study, H was the most common mitochondrial haplogroup at only 22.5% though, so less weighted to one haplogroup than the Y DNA sides. T was the second most common mitochondrial haplogroup at 16.5%, followed by U2, U5, A and D all around 10%. I will finally note that red hair is found in other parts of Russia as well, obviously, although not in as high numbers as the Udmurt people. Speaking of red hair though, how did blue eyes and red hair spread to Europe in the first place? To find out, please click here. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you would like to vote for what video topics I make videos on, I'll put a link below to my Patreon page, and thanks for everyone for their support. But yeah, thanks again for watching, please let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you next time.